Thank you all so much for tuning in. Today we are talking about fatherhood and the power of having a present father. I do want to give a shout out to my father, my grandfather, and all the dope men and Black fathers that are in my life. We have been having some really good conversations about mental health for Black men. I do believe there is more work to be done for the community in general, but I think that like having these conversations can really help push us towards like where we need to be. And society has not made it easy to be a Black man or to be a Black father. And just to be able to express their emotions and show up fully without feeling like they have to wear a mask. So, in honor of this episode, I want to say I love you. And if you're listening to this and you know a Black father or just a Black man that might need to hear this, just let them know that you care, you love them, and that their feelings matter. Uh, I'm going to jump right in. The guest that we have today, he is the author of I Love You, Letters from Black Men to Black Boys. You can find his book for purchase on his website at www.iloveyoubooks.com, or you can search for the title on Amazon, where you can purchase both a paperback and a digital copy. I have both. I actually brought three copies for my three brothers, and two of them have them. I haven't seen the other one yet. And so, if you're watching the video version of this episode, you probably have seen their pictures with the books. You can find, so the author, his name is Nate Evans Jr., and you can find him on social media at Nate Evans Jr. And so all of his links and the links to get the book will be in the description of this video. Let's jump right into the interview. How have things been going for you? Just, I know that you do kind of like a lot of speaking just about your book and just in general, but how's everything been going?
It's been going well. Definitely been doing a lot of speaking, a lot of different engagements, a few different high schools and some community colleges. And I'll be doing Tennessee State next month. So it's been great.
Oh, that's
Just really
amazing.
getting the message of the book out, and yes, it's been phenomenal.
Yes, I brought the books for my brothers. I didn't get the chance to give it to all of them, but I met up with one of my younger brother, and he has the book. So I really I enjoyed
Awesome.
it. I don't know if he read it, but I hope he did. But I'm gonna follow up with him because I was like, I went over to his house and I was just kind of like, you have to read this book, and I made his girlfriend look at it too.
That's awesome.
So it was like I was like, make sure he reads this because he gets like a little bit caught up with uh work. So I wanted to ask you, I know that we had talked about like having the topic be the the presence, nope, I'm saying it wrong. The power of a present father. And so
Yes.
when I had brought it up, it sounded like that you had thought that it was a good topic as well. Is that something that you kind of like see in your line of work, like a difference when there's a present father versus when it's not?
Yeah. No. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I'm around that environment all the time, being teen center director at the Boys and Girls Club. um, I notice when there is a present father in the child's life, that there's just difference in the behaviors almost. And you can literally notice it in their mannerisms and the things that they do, the questions that they ask. And, you know, unfortunately, the bulk of the kids come from single parent background homes where they are with just the mother, or they're living with the grandmother,
Mm,
and a lot of them don't have that father figure in their life. And for me, I kind of become that by default, just from being in their vicinity. So I become that father figure. But yeah, I can definitely see it, like I said, in the behaviors most of the time, because they haven't been mentored or shown how to express their emotions or how to do certain things. So they do what they see around them, they do what they see on social media. And for the most part, that leads to them acting out in some way, shape, or form.
mm. Okay, that was actually my follow-up question was like when you say acting out, like what type of behaviors are you seeing?
Yeah, it's usually like disrespect.
Mm,
That's really the main thing, because no one has, essentially disciplined them in that way or told them that, look, this isn't the cool thing to do. Or the men that they are seeing, that's the behavior that they're modeling. They're
mm,
modeling guys from the street that are disrespecting women, that are selling drugs, that are doing these certain things. So they're just doing what they see, but they haven't had that real like father kind of man like figure in their life to really show them what true men do, how we treat people, how we respect people, how we live our day-to-day lives, how we honor people. So that's really what I mean by the behaviors.
right, right. Yeah. And it does make such a big difference. And I really love the different stories that were in your book that kind of like touched on those different aspects. Um,
Yeah.
so I wanted to ask you, when it comes to, so like there are some fathers who are around, and I know like in my line of work, oftentimes my struggle, right, is getting the dad to sit down in therapy with us. And I'm like, no, I need you here. And so like, uh because it makes a really big difference for both daughters and sons. And so I think that the role of being a provider, um, and being kind of like a present parent can be very different. And I believe that like the views or the idea of what it means to be a dad is different depending on like people's background. So like what are your ideas on the difference between being a provider and being present as a father?
Yeah, yeah. Like I've had direct experience with that, with just, seeing how, my relationship with my dad, but then also hearing about his relationship with his dad, who's my grandfather.
Right.
And there's this huge kind of like disconnect. It's almost like, look, I'm the provider. This is all I need to do. And when it comes to providing, it's just monetary.
Mm,
But there's this aspect where we lose the emotional side of providing and really being there for your child mentally. And you feel that distance and that absence when that provision isn't there, when you aren't there in the sense of like, oh, I'm here to embrace you. Because the
mm-hmm.
reality is material things, they waste away. You give us
Right.
money here and there, like it's cool, it's great, we appreciate it, but we are, people who love to be embraced. We are people who love to build relationships. We want to feel love. It's like I'd rather feel that warm embrace from my father than him just buying me some sneakers, different things like that. And I've noticed that disconnect a lot. Yeah, I've noticed that disconnect a whole lot. And what it does is it kind of trickles down through generations until somebody kind of catches it. I'm like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I need to do something different. Because
Right.
while my dad was in the house, he was definitely present. Like he was there every day when he got off work. He got dinner, kicked his feet up, watched a little bit of TV, drank a beer or something, all those different things. He made sure I had sneakers and clothes. Emotionally, he just wasn't available. And that's what I needed.
Right. Yeah. You know what? I think that that touches on something so important because what I see a lot of times will happen is that because all these things are being provided, a lot of times some of the dads I work with, they'll have to not have to, but like mom gets so tired of being in the like disciplinary role that when dad comes home, he has to also be in a disciplinary role. So then he's like the
Yeah.
provider and the disciplinarian. And then that ability to form the attachment becomes a lot more difficult, and it kind of like also takes away from it in a sense. Is that something similar as well where your dad was also like the disciplinarian, or was it more your mom?
It was more of my mom.
Okay.
She was more of the disciplinarian, but I remember the one time, like, I feel like he really got with me. It's like, I'll never forget that. And I'm grown now. And it's like, I'll never forget that one time. But yeah, he kind of played more of that, like, more passive role. He was more of the financial provider. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, I'm doing all these different things for you. My mom was a little more of the enforcer, but I've seen it in my friends' lives, in other scenarios where it was different, where the father had to be the one coming in to, bring home the bacon, as they used to say, bring the money
Right.
in, but then also being that enforcer. And you can see the frustration in that. There wasn't
Right.
any room or capacity for anything else, for like having fun with your kid or anything like that. All the
Mm,
energy went to that. And
right.
yeah, yeah.
And I think that's so important. And it's a question that I often ask parents. It's like, when was the last time you enjoyed being a parent? Like what you said, like the
Ooh,
actual
that's good.
having fun. Because it's
That's
like,
good.
being a provider, being the disciplinarian, those are all like important roles, but it's also important to have kind of like that enjoyment time, which I think can become very limited, especially if it is a single parent home, or if dad is having to work and maybe he doesn't have the energy or time to sit down with the child.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree a lot.
For, I guess, like, I would imagine then, for the children that do have like the present father, are there other like distinct benefits that you have noticed?
Yeah, a lot of them are a lot more emotionally stable,
Hmm.
and they're more comfortable within their identity of who they are. Like they're not trying to become someone else. At least in the ones that I've seen, and I've had talks with their fathers, and we've kind of like chopped it up a little bit and spoken. You can see certain things in the way that they carry themselves. So you'll have a group of kids going this way, and they're like, nah. Either they're like, my dad don't play,
Mm,
or my dad's taught me a lot better than that, and I respect what he's taught me. So I'm gonna go the other way because he's always poured these things into me. So I do see that separation when it comes to um, certain decision making abilities and things like that. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna go the opposite way because these are the things that my dad poured into me.
okay, so it's like easier to, it's like I know my mom used to say like act like I'm there, act like so
Oh
like
man,
don't
yeah, yeah,
misbehave so you can make
yeah,
good decisions. So the children with the like present and active parents are sometimes being they're able to make good decisions even though the parents aren't there.
yeah. They stop and think. I know I used to do that all the time. I used to stop and think like, that's going too far,
Mm-hmm.
because at the end of the day, none of y'all have to answer to my dad. You know what I'm saying? None of y'all have to answer to my parents, but I do. I got to
Right,
go back home, and I'm not willing to go through whatever it is for y'all. I'm
right.
sorry. And I believe that when those kids do have that present father, those present parents, they do think. They stop and think before they make moves. Now you're still going to make mistakes and things like that, and that's life. That's
Right.
we're people. We're going to make mistakes, but they definitely stop and actually think things through. And I've seen that happen quite a few times.
Right. Yeah. Are there any like challenges that you see particularly for Black fathers when it comes to being a present father?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a multitude of things that we can list, but one of the most prominent things is, the incarceration rate. A
Mm,
lot of fathers are in prison, and these are facts. We know that. About, I want to say, I don't know the exact statistic, but about, what is it, half of the Black kids in America are living, with single parent households, mostly mothers. That plays a huge role when your dad's in prison and trying to father you from 100 to 200 miles away. And that
mm,
plays a huge role. And what that does is it almost breaks down a family without having that father figure there. And for the ones that do get out later on in life, your kid's a teenager or an adult, it's a lot different than you being there for their childhood and them growing up and you being able to be in their lives and teach them lessons. You're now coming in when they've already experienced so much. And you're just like, you're in a place of like, man, do I, come off as a father figure and be abrasive? Do I just love on them? Do I try to understand them? Do I try to give them lessons? It's a
right.
very confusing place to be, but that would be, I would say, probably the main thing. And then there's just this stigma that, that Black fathers don't stick around, and that's just not true. That's just not
Right.
true. There's a lot of other challenges that come up against Black fathers.
Right. Yeah. I did not think about that with the incarceration rate, but the numbers are not even, and there is a very unjust system that makes it more likely that Black men and men of color are going to be incarcerated. So there is this breakaway of the family. And then I think, I've seen it where it's kind of in some communities praised.
Mm-hmm.
So that I think that makes it a little bit, or expected. Not all
Yeah.
communities, not all Black communities, but I have seen it in some where that is the thing. So then there's this expectation that the mom is going to have to do it on their own. So sometimes before it even gets to that point, I'll notice that the conversation is a lot different than where it's kind of like preparation for having to do it on their own. And so I think that it's something that is not done accidentally. If
Yeah,
you
no,
you
no,
get
I
yeah.
agree. Yeah, because that makes, I mean, you think about it, I'm just thinking about my area here in New Jersey. There are a lot of, women around me who are, getting in these relationships and having babies, but there are very few people who are looking to build a family and actually get married and stick together. It's like, we're going to have a kid. I'm prepping myself, I'm independent, all these things. And like you said, it's almost a preparation for
Hmm.
him to leave. Like I know he's gonna leave at some point, but I got my baby and I'm good to take care of myself. I'm single, I'm bad, I can do it, I'm straight. And there is like this we've almost normalized that where
Right.
it's like, man, that's a problem because we're not building healthy families. And that's a true issue. And like I said, very few people that I know personally, I can't speak for everyone, but very few are looking to get married to build a union and an actual family unit together.
Right. Yeah. It is not kind of I do see I do see a little bit of a shift kind of in this maybe last couple years. I do see somewhat of a shift, and I think it also matters the communities that people are in. So like, there's movements I see on social media about like millennials being married. I think the numbers actually are going up, but the narrative, like the larger narrative, is not that. So it's like
Yeah,
and I think that, and I don't know
yeah,
what it'll
yeah.
take for that to happen, but I do think it's important because I think in the Black community, it's probably, I don't know any other community off top that's where it's like normalized for the individuals to be separated and kind of be
Wow.
like more
Wow.
independent. So someone has said that to me, that they felt like um it was that it's done purposefully, and they're they are kind of, they were more on the sense of like they feel like there's um larger powers that are like trying to separate Black families, or have been throughout the generations, and it still continue with this
Hmm.
like idea of being independent. And so I think it also, this is a whole other topic, but I think it also like delves into like the normalization of like mental health care, where it's like
Yeah.
people are like, oh, I can just do it on my own and I don't need support. So but that's I know
Hmm.
that's like a whole other topic.
No, that's so true. That because there's almost a there's this negative impact or effect that comes in later on, like you said, when you normalize the other things of like being single and independent. Not that there's a problem with it, but it's become the normal. Or like you said, even with the mental health thing, it's like, oh, I can do it on my own. And it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, you can do some things on your own, absolutely. But the larger narrative is like, look, we need this help, especially as Black people. We need these services, and that's what needs to be normalized. And that's a whole another thing we'll have to talk about for sure.
For sure, yeah. um Going back to, so one thing that I do notice as well is that there is a large community of fathers that are present in the Black community, but I think it's almost kind of like expected. I think I saw like a story where the guy was like how people of other cultures will like go up to people and just assume like if they're with their kid and kind of like congratulate them, or like say something like out of the, like it's not normal for them to like be with their kids if they see like a Black dad with their kids.
Wow.
So
Wow.
do you have any ideas about like what it would take to kind of like change the norm of like how people see Black fathers?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's as simple as that. It's seeing Black fathers, is magnifying that, and us, really championing that. You know, I feel like that's the only way we're going to make it normal. All
Hmm.
of my close friends are, my immediate circle is married, and a few of them are Black fathers, Black families, and I believe that magnifying that, like
Hmm.
really applauding that and putting that on display, is how we begin to like normalize it. Showing less of the the separation and the hatred and things like that, but really putting on display, whether it's social media, whether it's events, whether it's just outings, whatever it is, that needs to become what it looks like, the new normal. And also the biggest part is getting the younger generations to see that, to see that often. So it becomes normal with our TV shows, with our movies, whatever it is, we need to start seeing the Black family be a Black family. We need to start seeing that whole unit piece, because then that becomes normalized. What you see around you, especially as a youth, are this is more than likely the things that you see is like that. Those are the behaviors you adopt, right? So normally, and this isn't always the case, but normally, a young kid grows up in a house where they have both parents, loving parents, maybe a sibling, and they have a solid marriage, not perfect, but a solid marriage where they're loving each other, they're showing it outward and openly. Usually down the line, when that child becomes older, they're looking for that same thing. Look, my parents were married for 40 years and it was incredible, and this, and this, and my mom loved me, and my dad always took me here. I want that same kind of love. And we have to really put that on display. It just needs to be seen more and magnified. Whatever that looks like, we need to get those images out there in the world.
Right. Yeah. You know what? When you said that, it made me think of a product that was, I guess, directed towards parents. And so I think they were in some hot water a little bit because they were putting kind of like white families where it's the mother, father, and the child. And they were putting Black families as where it was just the mother and the child. So when you said that, it made me think about just even little images like that can make a big difference about like how people see themselves. Because it only takes like 5 seconds. I think there's a lot of people who do research into like marketing and media. So I always feel like those things are done purposefully, because it's like they know the message that they're trying to send, because it only takes like 5 seconds. Because I think about like the billboards when you're driving, like it's like 5 seconds they have to get their point across. And so I know there's a lot of money that goes into making those things happen. So I would imagine having people in places of power when it comes to like marketing on those larger platforms as well.
Yeah, that's a real thing. Yeah, they put millions of dollars behind those simplistic ads that just, like you said, send those signals, and then you see enough of them of just the mother with the son. It's just like, okay, that's normal. That's me and my mom. That's the way it's supposed to be. And again, not that there's anything wrong with that, but if we're really going to truly heal as Black people, if we're really going to truly thrive, we do have to get back to the family aspect of everything. And we need to. It would be great to see those images on billboards and just continue to normalize that and see what kind of fruit that bears in the future for the future generations.
I really like that. And I had not thought of it. It's like those things were in my mind, but I hadn't thought about that being kind of like a bigger answer for that. And so I hope that, so like with the conversations that you're having, do you see that I guess like what impact are you currently seeing that your book is having?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the impact I'm seeing is first and foremost, it's incredible. But what I'm seeing is that the book is starting conversations. It's starting conversations in the household. It's starting conversations within different communities and different schools. But I'm seeing that it's having a major impact on like Black boys and Black teens, as well as Black men, but definitely Black boys and teens, because there's this level of affirmation in the book. Because it's coming from 13 Black men, including myself, where we're pouring into these boys through this book, and there's a level of affirmation and accountability that comes with that. And when you've been living in a world where you're seen as less than, as a Black boy, as a Black man, you're seen as less than a man, you're seen as someone who's not important, your voice is ignored. But at the same time, while you're ignored, you're also being hyper surveyed, just in case you do something wrong. It's powerful when you have other people who look like you that want to pour into you, and it's not transactional, And I just see it having this huge impact. I mean, I've had multiple people message me, DM me, call me. I had a mother who reached out to me from the UK.
Oh, wow.
Who has some sons who had the book, and she wants to introduce me to other mothers. And get books to other people that she knows, and she's like, look, I read this with my son every night. He's reading this letter right now. And it's like, man, this is what the book was supposed to do. It's supposed to have that type of impact. And just in a scenario like that, the mother and the father separated, and the boy's by himself living with the mother. And for him to have this book where it's Black men saying I love you
Mm-hmm.
genuinely, and pouring into you with everything we have, is powerful, and there's a level of love and just validation in that.
It is so powerful. I watch a lot of TV sometimes, and I was just watching Grownish. Have you ever heard of that
Oh,
show?
I love that. Me and my fiance binge watched the whole
Yeah.
show
Did you
on
watch the
free.
last
I think it's
episode?
Freeform. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so it just made me think of that, where they were just kind of like trying to normalize this idea of men saying I love you to each other without there being kind of like this underlying homophobia with it.
Yeah, he ended up saying it at the end, and he was like, "What'd you say?" He was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I love you." At first, he couldn't even like fix his mouth to say it, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" So me and my fiance were literally talking about that, because that's like my big thing. Like, I'm always
Hmm.
telling my boys I love them. Like, the book is I love you. Like, that's literally my life. So for that to pop up on the show, I was like, "Oh wow."
Do you have anything that you would like to say or as like words of encouragement?
Yeah, absolutely. Just I guess a word of encouragement is that, especially for Black men that may listen to this, Black boys, just Black people in general, you do matter. Your voice is, being heard. There are people out there, whether you know it or not, that do love you genuinely, that aren't looking to get anything from you. Even if you don't hear it, even if you don't see it, trust me, there's someone out there that loves you. And then also just realizing that you're a masterpiece, and you're a masterpiece, but you're progressing at the same time, and in that, just realize the power that you have, continue to push, continue to, keep your hand on the plow, as my nanny would always say to me, and continue to, or begin to, love yourself. Because in order for you to go in this world and be able to love on others, you first have to have it within yourself. So I challenge you. I heard Jennifer Lewis once say, go in the mirror and just tell yourself, I love you, and stay there until you really mean it and you really feel
Mm.
it.
I really like that. I love that actually, because one thing I do tell people is when it comes to affirmations, to be very mindful of the ones that you truly believe versus the ones that you don't believe. And so tapping into like, if I don't believe this right now, I need to figure out why I don't believe it until I do believe it. And so I really
Mm,
like that.
it's good.
Yeah, stay in the mirror until you figure it out. So
Yeah.
that's really good. I will put links to your book, your Amazon link to your book, like in the show notes, and as well as like your contact info. So nateevansjr.com is the website.
Yeah, that's my professional site. For the book, it's I love you books dot
Okay.
com.
Thank you so much for tuning in. You can find my Instagram handle and Facebook at Connected Family Services. For Nate, you can find him on Instagram and Facebook, Nate Evans Jr. as his handles. And you can find his books again at www.iloveyoubooks.com. I look forward to connecting with you all in the future.